Hey, welcome all to the County Authority Board of Directors meeting of June 12th, 2023. This meeting is being held in a hybrid fashion. Some people are online through Zoom and others are present in the room. And somebody could be also on the phone. Let's do a roll call for we have a quorum.
All right. Just a sound check, making sure everyone can hear me.
We can hear you.
All right, awesome. So roll call of the board, Brian Noggle.
Here.
Amir Famili.
Here.
Ted Lyons. Linda Rosenfeld.
Here.
Norma Cusick.
Here.
Kevin Baker. Jeff Morgan.
Here.
Sean Ziller.
Here.
Mark Gramis. All right, we have 6 board members present, so we do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Yep.
The information for today's meeting was sent out email as well as available online, and we should have all the links. We will probably we'll just go beyond that. All right, so first of all, I wanted to make a couple announcements before we get into the meeting. First of all, we did receive another Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, has awarded a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the Accounting Authority for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended 2021. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. So that award was sent out, award Certificate of Achievement for financial reporting. And that went out to Ed's group, Ed and his team that worked tirelessly to get the job done and done well. And we've gotten this for many years. So congratulations to Ed. Another announcement, Liesl, congratulations. She has been awarded the George Warren Fuller Award by the Pennsylvania section of the American Waterworks Association. All right, we want to recognize Liesl for her work. The Pennsylvania section of the American Waterworks Association, AWWA, recently awarded Liesl the George Warren Fuller Award at their spring conference. The prestigious Fuller Award is presented annually by each section of AWWA to a member selected for distinguished service in the water supply field. The award commemorates the life of George Warren Fuller, one of America's most eminent engineers, and his sound engineering skill, brilliant diplomatic talent, and constructive leadership. Liesl gives her time and talents to the water sector at the local, state, and national level, contributing in many ways to support the industry. We join the Pennsylvania section of AWWA in celebrating your accomplishments. Congratulations, Liesl. So thank you for a job well done as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time for your speech.
No speech today.
Okay, all right. Pass on that then. All right, at this point in time, we're going to review the agenda for today's meeting and a need for an executive session.
All right, I have no suggested changes for the agenda today. However, board chairman has requested an executive session following the close of this meeting to discuss a personnel matter.
Okay, any questions? All right, now we move to approval of the minutes from May 22nd, 2023.
Yes, there's just a typo on the top of the second page. The first one, it said, which will be to have. So it should be, which will, I can't remember what I wrote, which will be to conduct a more detailed evaluation. And with that minor typo change, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
A second.
A motion made by Linda and seconded by Amir for approval of the minutes with that one typo change. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Brian,
Yes.
just a quick question. We have Mark Graham has joined the meeting a minute or so ago. Wanted to make sure our vote reflects whether he did or did not vote on that.
Okay.
I voted aye, Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to public comments. This time we open up the floor to any of the public that have any items to discuss that are not on the agenda. So does anybody have anything to offer?
No, thank you, Brian.
No comment here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to action discussion items. We do not have anything under finance and administration. We do have one item under water. It is the LCA Lehigh Township Water Services Agreement, first addendum, rescission of LCA board approval. They are seeking approval, and we're going to need a motion on this. Is yellow document in our packet, digital board packet, page 5.
Thank you. So I included in the packet just this single page letter that we received from the solicitor for Low Hill Township. And I think it's somewhat self-explanatory, but wanted to just share a little background on it. In May of 2022, LCA was asked to approve an extension, or I'm sorry, an addendum to the Low Hill Township Water Service Agreement that included an extension of water service to a potential new development in the Route 100 area for a couple of warehouses that were being proposed there. The township had suggested that they were supportive of water service being extended there, and they approved an addendum to our existing agreement, and the LCA board did the same. Since that time, the township has kind of changed its thought process on how it's looking at land use and that development in particular. And I received this letter from the township solicitor in which they're informing LCA that the township has rescinded their approval of that addendum. So that extension of service is no longer part of the agreement between LCA and Low Hill Township. So I don't know that the LCA board necessarily needs to do anything with this, but I thought that just in the spirit of collaboration and good relationship with the township and making it a clean, clean process, that LCA board should consider also rescinding its approval of that addendum so that we have a clean agreement with the township. And what that does in effect is sets us back to where we were with the service area that exists for Low Hill Township, and public water service would not be extended up Route 100 to those warehouses. And I don't know that those warehouses are going to happen at this point, but that's kind of a different issue. So open to questions or discussion. I think it's a fairly straightforward situation.
I think the township was also saying that they've adopted a Northern Lehigh multi-municipality comprehensive plan, and they're going to go through that process, deciding what might be required in the future. So any other questions and comments?
Move we approve, we rescind whatever it was that we did.
I'll say that the motion to rescind approval for water main extension in Low Hill Township based on the Township Board's Supervisors May 11th, 2023 action they took. Anybody second that?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
I heard Mark, I think, you made the second on that, and Linda made the motion. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. That's done.
Thank you.
Very welcome. All right, moving on to wastewater. We have one item under wastewater. And it is the North Whitehall Township Act 537 plan, cost sharing agreement, seeking approval, blue documents in our board packet, digital board packet pages 6 through 16.
All right, thank you. And for this one, there's a number of folks in the room who are aware of what's going on with North Whitehall Township. So we have, ability to answer some questions. I know Phil and AJ and Chuck have all been kind of working on this in one way or another. But as I described in the memo that accompanies the agreement, Lehigh County Authority and North Whitehall Township have been collaborating on sewer service for a long time, a couple decades. And as you're aware, we have a couple of small systems in North Whitehall Township, the Sand Spring system and the Wynwood Terrace system, but there is no central public sewer system in North Whitehall Township. There are a number of other small developer-built and developer-run private sewer systems in the township, and there have been efforts over the years to think about how they could be consolidated or interconnected, or really what needs to happen there, but we have not really landed on an actionable plan. The last time we were working with the township was in the mid 2000s, and a plan was developed that the township adopted in 2009 that would consist of a consolidated wastewater treatment facility in the Kids Piece area. Some of the board members may remember that discussion at that time. That project was ultimately not completed, and the township is looking for maybe a different alternative, or the service needs may have changed since that time. So more recently, LCA and township officials have been talking about restarting this planning effort for North Whitehall, and specifically recognizing that there are a couple of those small systems that are having some performance problems. Sand Spring, full disclosure, is one of them. So the Sand Spring system, as you know, has some performance challenges that we've been talking about just about every month now. But there are a couple of other privately owned systems that similarly have some performance challenges. The township is also concerned about the high density of private septic systems, on-lot systems in the Schnecksville area, and wanting to be sure that those are functioning properly, and that if public service is needed, that there's a plan for that, as well as some limited growth opportunity in that same area in the village of Schnecksville. So the township does not have a desire to get into the wastewater business. They feel they have a good partnership with LCA as the service provider, and we like working with the township and want to continue to grow that relationship. So we've been talking with the township about restarting the 537 planning process and how that would work, and looking forward not just through planning but ultimately through implementation, that LCA would be a strong partner with the township on that. So we've developed this cost sharing agreement that's attached to the memo. The cost sharing agreement is specific to the planning process alone, so it's a distinct time period where we would be working together collaboratively on an equal cost share basis to complete the 537 plan and get it through to submission to DEP. And then through that planning process, as we've learned through doing 537 planning in other areas, we will have to then discover through that process the financial and governance structure of how we'll implement the projects that come out of it. But that would be a later phase. So this agreement is very narrow in that it focuses on developing the 537 plan together with the township. We, just to kind of keep things simple, we agreed with the township on a 50-50 cost split, and we've specified that to be up to $150,000 from each organization. So we thought as a baseline, a $300,000 budget for sewer planning in the township seemed reasonable as a starting point. So if you got a chance to read the agreement, it's relatively straightforward and talks about the reasons why both the township and LCA are interested in doing joint planning together, and then goes on to specify some of the details and parameters around how we would select a consultant and how we would work together and how that cost sharing would functionally work, as the mechanisms are kind of laid out there. And that's it. So it's a pretty straightforward agreement. I fully support it. And I know Phil and AJ and Chuck, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and we're excited to fold in some of these small systems into a plan and envision how to provide the right kind of sewer service in the township. And this is a really good first step. I wanted to just also note that North Whitehall Township did approve this cost sharing agreement last Monday, and quickly turned around a final executed copy to me. So they're just waiting for us to jump in and say yes so they can get started. They have an RFP ready to go to try to bring a consultant in and help them do the plan. So with that, happy to have some discussion or answer any questions that you would have.
I have just two questions, Liesl.
Yeah.
The first one is, so you're gonna send an RFP out to a couple different consulting firms for that? Okay. And then
Yeah.
the second one is, do you have any like preliminary idea of the preliminary schedule for the project as far as a year from now, 2 years from now, a draft report, just in general?
Yeah, so the township was originally thinking they wanted to do the entire 537 plan this year, and we convinced them that was really unreasonable because we don't know all of the things that DEP is going to require. As you may recall, when we talked about the Kleins Island System Act 537 plan, there's a very long checklist of items that DEP will want to go through and determine which of those steps we have to take or don't have to take. But because of the rural nature of North Whitehall Township, and as I mentioned earlier, the density of the septic systems in Schnecksville area, we do expect that DEP is going to require some groundwater monitoring and septic tank evaluation, and that can take some time. And it has to be done at the right time of year as well to make sure that the impacts to groundwater is understood as part of that planning process. So we're saying tentatively that we would like to have the Act 537 plan done by the end of 2024. So it gives us a year and a half to do the study. I don't know until we have that first sit down with DEP if that's reasonable. So.
Thank you.
Any other board questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just had the same standard questions. First off, just listening to Liesl, it sounds like she's definitely in favor of this. And some of the questions that I had was how the board felt about the arrangement with the default. First off, was the payment. If it was normally, then we would normally do a 50-50 split on something like this. And it sounds like, Liesl, you're in favor of that. And the other part would be, has our solicitor and our engineering department had enough time to look at something like this? Because there's like a default thing in there. If you don't agree with whoever we want to do it, and we don't agree with whoever we do it, then everything goes either back to the drawing board or there's, penalty costs associated with it. So,
Yeah.
is engineering happy with this and with this agreement, and especially like with planning with the default arrangement and the time frame associated with this?
Yeah, I can respond at first, and then if Chuck or Phil or AJ want to jump in, or even Mike, but wanted to address a couple things that you said, Mark. First of all, the 537 planning process, by its nature with the state, is a municipal process. So, technically speaking, it's North Whitehall's plan. They're the entity that has to approve it and and buy into the results. So the township absolutely needs to be the leading partner, and that's why the agreement is kind of written with them in more of a lead position. But the cost sharing piece was really more of a recognition that LCA is intended to be the long-term partner, and we already have the services provided. Where there's public service in the township, LCA is that service provider. So, so there's a natural synergy between our two organizations and vested interest by both of us to get the plan done the right way. Another thing I wanted to mention, and Mike can opine differently if he'd like to, but this agreement was prepared collaboratively between the township and LCA. But Kingsborough was not involved in this matter particularly. We were using Saxon and Stump for this particular service. We had hired Saxon and Stump to help, and Kathy Pape in particular, I had mentioned her previously, working with us on a couple of PUC related issues and small system issues in the North Whitehall area. And so she and her firm being more familiar with all of the things that are going on in North Whitehall Township related to sewer service. That's why Saxon and Stump is shown as the legal counsel on this one. So they did the good majority of the drafting of all those provisions you mentioned about defaults and those sorts of things.
Okay.
I don't know, Phil or AJ or Chuck, if you have any comments on the engineering side. Phil, you're certainly very well aware of what goes into 537 planning.
Yeah, Lisa, I'll just reiterate what you said about the DEP checklist meeting. That meeting is gonna dictate, to be honest, that meeting is gonna dictate the schedule. So, end of 24 seems aggressive, but until we have that meeting, we won't know. Sure.
Yeah, and I'll just, Mark, thanks for the question. Just to answer your question, if engineering is in support of the agreement and the approach, I would say yes, 100%. It's a really good opportunity for LCA to be involved with the planning process. And rather than commenting and then maybe having to influence it later, we can be involved as the plan's being developed. And if ultimately we are going to have facilities that we own and operate as part of that, it's really helpful to be part of the entire process. So yeah, I think we're also really happy that North Whitehall has decided to proceed with a 537. It's something that we think is needed, and so being part of it is a good thing for LCA.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I had two questions. It gets back to the RFP process of agreements. Are we going to provide them with a template of what we want to see in it in advance so that they get as close in the first round of the RFP development?
Yeah, they actually already have an RFP ready to go, almost ready to go. Pending this agreement, we've already reviewed it, and the schedule is the biggest piece in the RFP that we're concerned about because we don't have that meeting with DEP yet. So, I mean, essentially 537 planning is a pretty straightforward process from in terms of scope, because DEP tells us what the scope is. And the RFP is based around having that initial meeting and having that meeting dictate the other steps of the process.
Okay, thank you. The other part is we had submitted to the DEP a proposal for taking care of the problems at Sand Spring. And is there going to be any impact on that submission and the solution to that problem as a result of going through the process of the 537?
Yes. So DEP is very well aware of both the Sand Spring issue and North Whitehall's desire to do this 537 plan. They're very supportive of it. We did have Scott Novotnik and Amy Blanca down to visit us maybe 2 months ago to talk about this 537 approach, what's happening with Sand Spring and some of the other private small systems. So they understand that the corrective action plan related to Sand Spring is interrelated with this 537 plan. Although we have not received response yet from DEP on the Sand Spring corrective action plan that we submitted. So I think they're very much in support of planning around the township generally, but also as it relates to Sand Spring. AJ, did I interrupt you? Were you trying to also answer that?
I was trying to answer it too, but I'm glad you started. Yeah, I was just going to say that we proposed measures to the state, and those short-term measures we will proceed with in parallel with the 537 process. But the state indicated that they would allow the 537 process to dictate what long-term measures need to take place there. So if we end up doing a major upgrade, or we end up having a facility somewhere else and Sand Spring goes away, then they're okay with that. They're okay with the 537 process dictating what happens, and they're okay with it delaying things. That doesn't mean the fines get eliminated, but it does mean that they're giving us a longer time frame to do any major improvements.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, they are. We do need a motion on this.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay. All right, motion made and seconded for cost sharing agreement with North Whitehall Township doing the Act 537 planning. All right. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
I apologize. You already did the motion and the and the voting on it, but I do want to be clear that the motion would include authorization for me to sign the agreement.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, all right. Thank you. That's standard procedure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on then. Monthly project updates. We have that in our board package, digital board package, page 17 to 23.
Yes. Thank you. So in your packet, you'll see a couple of items for the next meeting, the monthly financial review and operations review, as always, at the second meeting of the month. We also have a project related to Spring Creek Pump Station upgrades that'll come up at the next meeting, so look forward to that. Also wanted to highlight on page 1 of the report that we've tentatively scheduled a review of the LCA safety program for the first meeting in July. That's a follow-up to some of the conversation we had last month about safety, and Ed Klein and the Environmental Health and Safety Committee will be putting together a presentation of that and some of the metrics for you in July, if that's acceptable to the board. Otherwise, there's no project updates listed, but there's plenty of projects listed on the open project list if there's any questions about those.
Anybody on the board have any questions on any projects?
Where do we stand in the chlorination system improvement? The chlorination system?
At Klein's Island. Yes, that project will finish up this quarter for the dechlorination, adding the sodium bisulfite chemical to knock down the residual chlorine. Yeah, that project is finishing up.
We're actually expecting a lot of work to be completed this week and following.
Sorry to say that.
We're expecting a lot of the electrical work to be completed this week and following week. So we're hoping, like Chuck said, by the end of the quarter for sure.
Thank you.
I have one question. So Phil, what's the next Act 537 plan deadline?
The next big deadline?
Yeah, the next big one.
We are still talking to the municipalities about their source reduction plans.
Okay.
And if they choose to revise their source reduction plan, we need that by next month. So that's the next big deadline, is the source reduction decision.
Any other board questions, comments? Okay, moving on, item number 9 on the agenda, staff comments.
I just wanted to chime in and maybe this is the speech on the on the earlier comment about the Fuller Award, but I did want to thank the board for the opportunity for me and some of the staff, Chris Mon and John Mako are here with me in Toronto for the American Waterworks Association annual meeting. The opportunity to go to education and training events like this where you get to meet world-class leaders in our industry and look at innovative ideas is really a great benefit to the organization, but also really appreciated on a personal level. So wanted to thank the board for the support of that continued participation.
On behalf of the board, we certainly encourage the personal development of you and your staff, direct reports, and everybody really. So thank you for being there.
Yep.
All right. Any other staff comments? That was it. We have Mark, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just had one question. Maybe I should have brought it up earlier. Looking at the meeting minutes from last time, the monthly review where the pump failed to start, resulting in the bypass. Looking at this, I guess I'm wondering, I mean, I can discuss this with somebody offline too, but I was just wondering, you know, why didn't the pump start? What was the root cause? Is there a backup to that pump? You know, in the event that we have another wet weather event, is that pump still in a similar condition? What did the root cause indicate for failure of the pump to start?
I can answer that one. So the pump was actually out of service, but it was placed in the sequence of when it was supposed to start, and it was supposed to be during the last pump because it was out of service, but it was input as the 5th pump. So when that pump was called to turn on, it was actually out of service. So it was a communication error.
Okay, so it was so it taken out of service when it wasn't supposed to be, or there was no backup contingency for taking that out, or what do you do when you take something out for repair or whatever and the pump is out of service? Somebody must look at it and ask what if, you know. So it's not like it failed to start. It was just like it was taken out of service. That's what I'm hearing now.
Right, but it was being called for it to go into service, but it was not actually operable at that time. So if it would have been the 6th pump, we would have technically had enough pumping capacity to handle that event.
Hey, Mark, did you get it?
I guess there's an answer, and without getting into too many of the details, I guess I can ask Lisa for a contact, whatever, that I can just call offline and find out more about it. Sounds like we're covered.
It sounds like it was a communications error in the way that the pumps were programmed, the sequencing of the pumps. Is that right, Andrew?
Yes, that's accurate.
So the pumps go on in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order, and this one that was out of service was put in the middle of the sequence where it shouldn't have been.
Okay, so it was a logic issue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Andrew, just to clarify, so you have 6 pumps. How many normally run when it's dry weather?
On a dry, like earlier today, there was probably 2 pumps on.
Right, so you typically have 2 pumps and 4 backups, and they come on sequentially, and as you said, if that would have been the last pump, there would not have been an overflow.
Correct.
Right.
Because even with 5 pumps running,
Correct.
we technically would be
You'd
able
have
to.
had enough capacity. Okay.
Okay, that sounds like something that can be corrected, so we don't have that happen again.
100%.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Solicitor, do you have any comment?
Not specific, but I just want to congratulate Lisa and Edge Group on their awards. It's fantastic.
Right. All right. Any other board member comments? Okay, and this time we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think we skipped over any public comments.
Oh, you're right, I did. All right, at this time, I open up the floor to any comments from the public on any topics at all.
That's okay, Brian. I don't have any comment.
No comment here either. Thank you.
All right, appreciate your comment, no comments. Sorry I forgot you. All right, at this time, we are going to adjourn the meeting. And the board will come back in executive session to discuss personnel matters at 1:45. 12:45. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here and for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.